Hey everyone, it's Shama with Girls and Geese back for yet another edition of our Ask a Black Belt segment. We are super excited. Today we have on a black belt out of Colorado. Her name is Sharicka Long-O'Neill. She's been doing jiu-jitsu for some time now. She's super active within the Girls and Geese organization, and she's our lead ambassador. She's also helps with the podcast. She runs a camp out of Colorado called Rocky Mountain Women's BJJ Retreats. And so if you guys haven't tuned in for an Ask a Black Belt before, this is how it works. You ask the questions and she will answer them. Hey, Sharicka, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. So I gave like a quick rundown of who you are, where you train. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been training for 7.5 years. I am a Navy veteran. Right now I work for civil service. I am a mom, a wife, and that's it in a nutshell. I love to bake.
I saw your gluten-free, was it banana angel fruit cake? Was that right?
It was pound cake. It was so stinking good.
I know. I've been an avid follower since the pandemic when you kicked up your baking.
Dude, I'm getting fat over here and I'm loving it.
So I gave a rundown to the folks watching. How it works is they ask questions. I'll kind of read them off to you. If we don't get any questions, then you and I are just gonna chat.
Good, so. I like that. Y'all come with them questions, though. I'm not holding back.
So, how did you get started in jiu-jitsu? What kind of guided you along this path?
Actually, my husband dragged me into it, kicking and screaming. We started doing gym stuff, lifting weights, doing a little cardio, and he was a blue belt at the time, and he was like, let's try jiu-jitsu. And so we went to 2 gyms. The first one was a hell no, and the second one led us to the compound in Littleton, Colorado. So that's where I've been most of the time. As you and I both know, our journeys aren't necessarily straight arrows, so I've been around a little bit.
No, I think that it's our experiences that make us stronger and give us the knowledge to move forward, right? And
oh yeah.
So how has your training been since the pandemic? Have you been training? Have you been consistently training the whole time, or have you been off the mat?
Honestly, we were concerned at first, and so we're like, nope, we're not going to the gym. My husband was like, well, I'm a little older, so I'm vulnerable. So I'm like, well, hell, we're not going to the gym. And then he starts like training, and I'm like, what the hell? And so honestly, I ended up going back at it because he started training. I'm like, well, if he's coming back here bringing stuff into our house, I might as well go train. Yeah. And honestly, all my friends and teammates were still training. I'm like, these mofos are going to kick my ass if I don't get in that gym. So I've been training here and there. You know, anytime I get like a sniffle or a sore throat, I take a break because you just never know what that is. And so I want to be as safe as I possibly can while still doing it.
No, I agree. I'm stuck here where there's no training, so I envy those that are taking that
There's
risk.
none in Hawaii at all?
No, the academies are closed. They've been closed since March. So going on a while now.
Yeah.
So you've been a huge help with the Girls and Geese organization since the shift from live events to our virtual world. You and I have had a blast. We've been working on a lot of projects. So, and you're active when we are live. We are, having events and such too. What contribution do you want to make to the women's movement in jiu-jitsu? Like when you first kind of started getting involved, what motivated you to do that, and what kind of impact do you want to leave?
That's a good question. Honestly, for me, getting in the door, doing jujitsu, I was the only female in our gym for a while, and then I learned that, oh, there's other women outside doing this. I think I told you I went to my first Girls and Geese event, and they're picking partners, and I'm like the lone one on the wall, and I'm like, oh hell no. And I think it was Rossi Snow was there with her daughter, and she was like, well, you can come train with us. And so I was very appreciative of that. And so getting into Girls and Geese, getting myself out there in the community, I want to be a beacon for these women coming up behind me to let them know that you have support. You are not alone. There is more jujitsu than inside those four walls that you're in. And I don't think people get that. There's so much support out in the community. And I think Colorado, we're doing a really good job. We have a lot of women's open mats. Certainly it slowed during COVID. But getting out there, understanding that you have a tribe that is so stinking huge. And those women have been so important for me because there's been some tough times on this journey where I wanted to get off. And if it wasn't for my women, I'd be gone. I would absolutely be gone. And so I want to be that for other women, especially the ones first coming in the door. It's very brand new. You don't know what's acceptable in jiu-jitsu. And I will tell you what is not acceptable. And so I think we all, at certain times, victim to certain games, certain actions from other people. And I want them to know you have support. If there's something going down, you let me know, and Mama Bear is going to be at somebody's door. I just will. And I think that's important, especially if I want those female training partners. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, for sure. Yeah, you're definitely somebody that I know you got my back.
For sure. No doubt about it.
You're in it to the end.
Yes.
So we got some questions. So how long did it take you to kind of figure out your game? You've evolved over the years. You're a black belt now. Like, how long did it take you to kind of get to that point?
I knew early on anyway. I certainly didn't know my game, but I knew my top pressure was the basis of everything I was going to be in jiu-jitsu. I didn't start being successful in submissions until I was a purple belt, and that was at Master Worlds. I was so afraid of moving from top position, and my pressure is freaking awesome. It just is. Sorry to toot my own horn, but I was afraid to move. I'm like, if I move to try to do a submission, they're going to flip me over. And then I understood, and it was almost like a light bulb. And I had talked to somebody at Master Worlds about my game, and they were giving me tips, and it just clicked that if I can control them, I can submit them. And so after that, it just started happening. So I'd say probably about purple belt, but I knew what my stuff was. I was not a guard player. You were probably going to pass my guard, but I knew I was top control, and I honed that right around purple belt.
Awesome. Looking towards the future, do you think you'll be competing this year? Do you have your eyes set on anything, or too soon to know?
I'm generally an IBJJF girl. I've certainly done Fight to Win pro stuff, did tournaments early on. Fight to Win Pro is probably the best in terms of women's support. IBJJF, I've fallen out of love with them. I want them to be on the right side of history, and I don't think that they always are. And I understand that it's a tough position to take a stand, but right is right. And if they're not going to do right by me, I don't necessarily want to compete there.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, things are changing, though. There's so many different tournaments that are popping up now that they're changing their rules. So I'm sure that IBJJF will have to follow suit just to keep up a little bit.
I hope that's true. I've always competed at IBJJF. They've run really good tournaments. But in terms of social things, if you're not going to stand up, I can't be with you.
Gotcha. So, we talked a little bit about overcoming challenges and difficulties in your journey. What has been the biggest one that you've had to overcome, and how did you get past that?
Mm, well,
Well, where
um,
should I start?
damn, we're getting into some tea. I
You know
think,
me.
yes, and I
No, that
appreciate
wasn't
that.
my question, but go ahead.
I I think I've always just kind of walked around with a little chip on my shoulder for whatever reason, childhood, high school, bullying, whatever. And so I was never one to deal with being slighted or not valued. And I did some stupid stuff. I said some stupid stuff. And I think it kind of derailed my jujitsu. I think it caused a fray in the dynamics at the gym I was at the time. So I left. And, you know, I was lucky enough that some friends took me in, but my husband was still at the gym. And I'm like, shit, what do I do? You know, and if I could take that back, I would. I think I mishandled the way I communicated, that I didn't feel valued. Instead of saying, hey, I don't feel valued. Can you tell me why I wasn't included, why you didn't consult me or value me enough to make me a part of it? I just went in, I will come for you, I will dog walk, all this dumb stuff. If I could take that back, I absolutely would. The person on the opposite side of it was really mature. I was not. I was that 12-year-old girl getting bullied, and I wasn't putting up with it. So I would say you don't have to fight every fight. And if you are going to fight, make sure you have a good point. Make sure that you're on the right side of the argument. Because you might have a great point, but if you communicate that in such an aggressive way where you just want to fight people, it's not going to be effective. So my tip would be, unless it's hugely important to your person, there's an assault on your person, maybe shut up. And so I wish somebody would have told me to shut up.
Well, that's a humbling moment, I'm sure, to kind of reach the point you're at now. I know it's hard.
For sure.
It's a
For
hard
sure.
one, but it's a good
Mhm.
lesson to learn. You know, I think
It absolutely is. And girls who are upset about some stuff, I'm like, you better think about this stuff. Oh, I'm ready to leave this gym. You better think about that. Make sure it's the right choice for you. If it is, absolutely go.
Yeah.
But take inventory of why you're leaving. And if it's still important, then you go, but leave gracefully.
Yeah, no, for sure. So tell us, you started in your 30s, right? Training jiu-jitsu. How has it changed now that you're in your 40s? Like, what has changed for you? How has your schedule changed?
I have a really good work-life balance, greater than when I had just started jiu-jitsu. I think what's changed for me is, my body's limited. Right now, my back is aching from some weird jiu-jitsu injury, I'm sure. Now I choose my training partners more wisely. I tap more often. And I understand that, and I'm okay with it. At first, it was an ego thing, like, oh, I'm not about to let these lower belts beat me. And so I'd get my arm taken off trying to beat somebody. And now I'm at that age where my body has to come first and understand that it's okay to tap. Leave that ego at the door. You're going to be nursing injuries later on in life. So in that respect, it's changed. We have a lot of tough women, especially at our gym. We got some tough girls, and they are younger than me. They are faster than me. And so I've had to learn not to go so hard in the paint, though I will still go hard in the paint, but I'm learning to protect my body, protect my limbs, so I can still go in and train the next day.
Yeah. Have you noticed as you've progressed through the ranks, has that target on your back gotten bigger? Kind of, in reference to the ego, have you noticed that maybe more people come after you now that you're a black belt, as opposed to being a blue belt?
How
do you handle that if you do notice it?
I think where I see it more often than not is some young guy coming in the gym and thinking, oh, I'm not going to let a girl beat me. Well, first off, I'm a grown-ass woman, and I will break your arm off if we're playing that. But the girls in my gym and my community, we've all come up together. They know my strengths, they know my weaknesses, and vice versa. So I don't think anybody's like, oh, I'm coming for the crown. There's no fucking crown here anyway. But, we're not trying, we're all going at each other. And so I don't feel like I'm being under siege or anything by somebody wanting to beat Sharicka because she's a black belt. I think I had just made, I think it was purple belt. And one of my dear friends, she's an absolute dear friend right now, but I didn't know her all that well at the time. And so she's like, well, do you feel there's a target on your back now? And I'm like, bitch, what is this? Are you coming for me? And so I didn't understand that because I'm like, why would somebody target me? I'm nice. But I've never really felt that from the women in the community. It's those young guys coming in the door trying to take my head off.
So, being a black belt yourself, do you have any other black belts that you kind of look up to? And maybe you kind of study their technique and that you find interesting?
I would probably say Jessica Flowers. She's top heavy, and her game is way more dynamic than mine. But in terms of pressure, she's a takedown queen, and I'm all about those takedowns. So I would say her. Coming into jiu-jitsu and even along this journey, I didn't see very many women looking like me. And so Nyjah Easton, now Rollins, I think, I was like, man, she looks like me, and so I followed her. I would YouTube her videos to see what she was doing and how she was so successful. Now on this journey, I see a lot more women that look like me. And so I look towards those women because that's something I can relate to. In our community, I would say Vanessa Wexler is somebody that I really look up to. I remember the first time I'd actually spoken with her, we were at her tournament. I'm telling my husband, I'm like, that's Vanessa Wexler right there. That's good. She is. And I was like, I'm going to go talk to her. And she was so nice and humble and unassuming. And, you're like, hey, do you think, I'm fangirling, can I get some private? She's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, really? So, and to now be a black belt with her, she's just somebody I've looked up to throughout my journey. But I'd say those women, there's a lot, but those would be my top. And of course, Claudia Duvall is just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. On so many levels, like as a competitor, yes, as an instructor, as a person,
yeah.
So you and I have been hitting a lot of hard-hitting topics on our podcast and our segments, things that maybe we don't necessarily talk a lot about in the jiu-jitsu community. I think this year we've kind of been forced to address a lot of issues because they've been in our face.
Mm-hmm.
What are some issues that you think that are things that we really need to kind of focus in on addressing and bringing some kind of solution or resolution to? Like, what are some of the top ones in your opinion that you think deserve that?
I think, sexual assault in BJJ is huge to me. Intolerance of the LGBTQ community is huge to me. It's a problem. Racism, sexism, misogyny, those are all in my top 5. It's important. It's happening. I think where you have one, you have many, and where you have one, you have too many. But people are silent. I'm part of a group called Safeguard that's starting here in Colorado. I post stuff and I get some likes and it's great. I post anything about sexual assault or rape. everybody's mom, even the women. And so I charge you women, if you are leaders in your BJJ community, open your mouth. There is nothing more frustrating than seeing a woman that I know knows full well what is going on in their gym, and they say nothing. And if you think I'm talking to you, I am. That stuff frustrates the hell out of me. These women are coming to do self-defense, and they are not safe in their own gym. The girls in our gym, if there is some shit going down, I am on it. I feel like our women are safe. There are gyms out there that are not safe in this community. And it pisses me off how quiet we get when somebody talks about it. You know, I think about the gal here who was raped. Before her rapist was charged, she got dragged through the mud. And not until there was a conviction was everybody like, good job, you know, we're glad you were so strong. Where were you yesteryear when she needed somebody, when it was dark, when she was crying by herself? And so I charge you women, you know, men, you're gonna have to come up next, but women, you know the vulnerabilities, do something about it. You know, if you have your daughter's training, do something about it. You know, if I'm not safe, they're also not safe. Stand up.
No, for sure. I'm glad you touched on it. These are definitely some important things that, you know, like I said, for many and many years has just been swept under the rug. Oh, it pops up. Oh, it's silenced. Oh, it pops up. Oh, it's silenced. And it's like,
they're so quiet. They're either complicit or they're doing it. Which one is it? Take inventory of your team. Ugh, child, that pisses me off.
No doubt. So onto a more lighter topic.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we'll flip the script here, guys. But you know, what has been one of the best like pieces of advice that you've gotten on your journey? Something that maybe really resonated with you that you kind of take forward and kind of instill on everyone else, you know, with around you, that you inspire and uplift?
To lean in on your teammates. Understand that you're not going to win every match. You're just not. Somebody's going to be better than you, and that's okay. I always get very nervous, and I get this anxiety and stuff before a competition because I didn't want to embarrass anybody. And then one of my teammates, we were at Master World, I can't remember what year, and he was telling me about a Jocko podcast. I think it's entitled Good. And so, you know, people are failing at different things, and he's like, good. I'm like, what's good about that? And so just being able to, I listened to that podcast and it resonated with me. And so thank you, Fletcher, for putting me on to that podcast. So I would say that was a big one, and tap early. Those two things resonate for me.
Yeah.
Understand that your failures are not the end all be all.
No, they you can go so much further because of them, I think, you know.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It's like when you're at a competition, you know, and you win, and you're like, yeah, I just won. And you're not thinking about, oh God, I should have done that better. Oh, I messed up there. Oh, I didn't do this. You know, it's the losses that you think about that.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you, I did my black belt debut in New York. This was like maybe a few months after I got the black belt. And so I'm out in New York, and my opponent, my first one, she didn't even know how to tie her belt. And I'm like, I'm about to crush her. Dude, she tapped me in 15 seconds flat. I just kind of wanted to run. You know, my teammates are like looking at me, and I know they're like, damn. And that was so humbling. And I'm like, I've been outclassed. I think you tricked me with that damn belt bullshit. I was like, I'm about to slaughter her. She can't even tie her belt.
Don't underestimate anybody. Ever.
You got that right.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. I'm so happy that we got to do this today.
Me too. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I mean, you do so much for the organization, do so much with your Rocky Mountain retreats and uplifting the women in your area and all around. So I wanted to get you on, and we always have such great conversations. So now we got a bunch of flies on the wall asking questions. So
Good. I like that. I appreciate you guys.
no, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for participating and asking your questions. And I hope you guys learned something today. And how can people find you, Sharicka?
I am Mrs. O does BJJ on Instagram. Find me on Facebook, Sharicka Long-O'Neill. I'm at the compound in Littleton. If you are visiting Colorado, come check us out. We will make you feel so welcome. Yeah, you can find me under any rock or stone.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Sharicka. I look forward to our next project together.
Absolutely. And, yeah, I'll talk to you next week.
Yes, we'll talk soon. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.